I literally hunted on Shein for hours trying to find a really
Shein haul! I haven't ordered from Shein in so freaking long, so I'm kind of excited.
Hey y'all, I have a massive vacation Shein haul.
I spent $1,500 at Sephora.
I have a humongous Temu haul. You have never seen a Temu haul this big.
I think I officially have the biggest Temu haul ever. So in part one of this haul, I'm going to try to focus on home and everyday items. Okay, we're going to start with this bag. Okay, let's open it. I want the... It's the best. I'm so excited. So if y'all want to get a look, this is in the shade coffee.
Every year, 100 billion clothing items are produced, and 92 million of them end up in landfills. 114 billion pieces of cosmetic single-use packaging goes unrecycled, and Shein, known for its fast fashion and child labor, has brought in $32.2 billion in sales worldwide in 2023. And Temu, a site known also for its questionable ethical standards and cheap products, has 292 million monthly active users worldwide. How the fuck did we get here? Consumerism isn't something that just came out of nowhere. The fact that we feel like we need to buy everything that's trending just to feel like we're keeping up and we fit in is not natural. The fact that we see new trends every 2 milliseconds is also not natural. This all started somewhere. This was all manipulated somehow and imprinted into our brains. Consumerism didn't just pop out of the blue. It was, in my opinion, carefully normalized and built into our daily lives and imprinted into our brains that we need to consume to feel like we're a part of society. Obviously, there's multiple reasons for consumerism being such a major thing, mostly the capitalistic incentives of companies, but another sort of source and origin of consumerism being normalized, or rather a tool that is used to normalize consumerism, is TV shows and media. So today we're going to be focusing exactly on how TV shows and movies and forms of media manage to normalize consumerism successfully. So first of all, let's define what consumerism is. So consumerism, by definition, is a socio-cultural and economic phenomenon that is typical of industrialized societies. It is characterized by the continuous acquisition of goods and services in ever-increasing quantities. Basically, you buy a bunch of shit. You buy lots of shit that you don't need, okay? Let's look at the history of consumerism. Because of course there's a history. There's a history to everything. Now, the modern concept of consumerism only arrived in the past century, starting in the 1920s. But the idea of consumerism truly began to take shape after World War I. But consumerism was also increasingly growing in society in the 1890s, because as we saw, in a huge expansion of shops throughout America. But full-blown consumerism is truly more of a modern concept. The 17th, 18th, and 19th century kind of served as a stepping stone to modern consumerism, as during these centuries there was a global buildup of international trade and urbanism, so that the major part of societies all over the world, it was becoming truly more easier for them to become consumerists. So wanting goods and shopping for those goods was becoming much easier to do. So in the 18th and 19th century, we kind of saw this explosion of shops that made it way easier for consumers to get the goods that they need, as well maybe ones that they don't need but want, which led to the boom of modern consumerism in the 1920s. So in the 1920s, we saw mass consumption in cars, household appliances, and processed foods, but also beauty products and clothing. It was a fundamental shift in the American economy during the 1920s. So, you know, better economy means people are going to be spending more money. People are going to be consuming more stuff and buying shit that they don't need. That's what we saw in the 1920s. This is where modern consumerism really started. But after World War I, so after the start of modern consumerism, another leap that we had to consumerism came after World War II, when the true consumer age actually began. Now, what we saw after World War II in the 1940s and 1950s is that consumers and consumption began to grow rapidly, because America had just been through the Great Depression and the Second World War, and now they're finally experiencing some sort of economic freedom. What's interesting, also in these years, we saw the rise of suburbias, as well as people buying the newest clothes, gadgets, and appliances to give sort of these middle-class Americans the illusion of being wealthy. There was a major increase in consumerist ideals, and it led to an increase of quick consumerist places such as fast food restaurants like McDonald's and more. Consumerism like this continued to evolve throughout the 60s, 70s, and took another big jump in the 1980s. In the 1980s, we see a large jump in consumer spending because more women entered the workforce than any decade before. So therefore, there was more money to spend by double-earning families. More than ever, people were looking to the TV for fashion advice. This gave consumers an entire new market. We also saw a rise of malls in the 80s, a place where people would simply hang out, and this added to the constant consuming, because even if you didn't go to the mall with the intention to shop, more likely than not, you were leaving with purchasing something from a store or even a food court. Definitely things that you wouldn't need. Okay, so now that we've talked about the history of consumerism, we can look more at the media aspect of it, so TV shows and movies. What I noticed is, so when we look at movies from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, we don't see, what we see is a lot of popular movies like Citizen Kane, Casablanca, The Twilight Zone, 12 Angry Men. We see that those are like some of the most popular movies from that time. But these movies, a lot about them are about human morality dilemmas, a lot of movies about war, especially after the post-war period, and socioeconomic class. But if we look at movies and TV shows from the 90s and 2000s, especially comedy movies and sitcom series and comedy TV and sitcom TV shows, we see a lot of popular movies and TV shows are Sex and the City, How I Met Your Mother, The Devil Wears Prada, Friends, Mean Girls, even White Chicks. The reason I'm mentioning these is because they have a specific trope in these more modern movies, and the era that they're created in really reflects in the characters. Now, this is important because in the 90s especially, we saw a huge boom of fast fashion. Fast fashion began in the 1990s with Zara. So when Zara came to New York at the beginning of 1990, it was sort of the first. It was sort of like the blueprint of fast fashion. That is where fast fashion began. That is like the history of it. That's where it started. So just so you know the sort of the definition of fast fashion, it's the business model of replicating really popular trends and high fashion designs, but mass producing them at a really low cost and often really low quality. And of course, there's a reason why it's so low cost, because, well, really cheap labor and really cheap quality. And the workers are not treated well. There's a huge difference in movies and TV shows that are produced post-fast fashion era and pre-fast fashion era. You know, movies like The Godfather, Citizen Kane. But then in the 90s and 2000s, specifically comedy, in the comedy genre, there's a key difference. I'm gonna be talking about sort of like 3 things. So first of all, how humor is used to normalize consumerism, how consumerism is idealized, and the prototype of the shopaholic. Now, as I said before, a lot of popular movies before the boom of consumerism were about human morality dilemmas, about war, about social and economic problems. But TV shows and movies in the 2000s and 90s were often about, I mean, they're obviously not just about shopping and all of that, but there is a key there's a key trope that the 90s and 2000s movies have. The key difference that we see between movies before the boom of consumerism and fast fashion and after the boom of consumerism and fast fashion is the trope of the shopaholic. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about how humor is used in these TV shows and movies to normalize consumerism. Humor, I think, is like one of the main tools to use to normalize a certain topic. For example, if I had to use like a modern example, I would say how on TikTok or on social media in general, you see people making jokes about cheating on their girlfriends, or making jokes or about having a sneaky link, you know, or cheating on your girlfriend again, about cheating on your significant other. That's just like a modern example. You know, now cheating on the person that you're dating is just very normal. You know, it's become just like, well, yeah, all men cheat, or, you know, all women are the same. Like, it's become so normalized. That's like one way that humor can be used to normalize something. But especially we see it in TV shows and movies where the goal is to normalize consumerism. The reason that humor is so useful in normalizing something is that it creates a light-hearted undertone to any topic that you're addressing, basically. In regards to consumerism, a good example would be the use of the word retail therapy. So there's actually research that shows that shopping triggers the release of dopamine in areas of the brain associated with reward. So when levels of dopamine decrease, individuals may experience a craving of their previous state, so they seek out further rewarding behaviors. So it is, you know, scientifically proven that it does provide a short-term comfort, but like many drugs and addictions, it also imposes costs and is subject to come down and withdraw. The term retail therapy is really just a nice way of saying that you're a shopping addict, and that can actually be a really serious problem, much like gambling addictions. Being addicted to shopping can be a major problem. It can cause so many financial issues and mental health problems. But the term retail therapy makes it seem like it's a fun and quirky thing, because it takes something very serious like therapy and in combination with, you know, consumerism, but it identifies consumerism as a form of coping. It identifies it as a coping mechanism. So it's ironic in a sense, because it does acknowledge the fact that shopping is a form of a coping mechanism, but it's still used as this sort of like quirky and lighthearted thing. We see this term in a lot of TV shows and movies, especially in the 90s and 2000s. A lot of characters, their personality traits become shopping, and specifically fashion and shopping and beauty and all of these things. There's a lot of relatable shopaholic characters, like, for example, Lily in How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother is a sitcom from the 2000s, and Lily is one of the main characters. She's often pictured as being this like shopaholic, but she's also shown as experiencing a lot of debt problems and a lot of financial problems in general. But with it being a sitcom, her being a shopaholic is portrayed more in a funny and cute way instead of an actual problem. The context of sitcoms always matter, because sitcoms are really lighthearted and filled with humor, so that topics like consumerism can be presented in a much more lighthearted context. Lily is just one example, but in general, you see a massive amount of female characters in TV shows and movies from the 90s and 2000s that are portrayed as these like shopaholic retail fashion girlies, you know, like female characters especially are often seen together in groups at malls browsing and talking about fashion. So think Mean Girls, even White Chicks, even TV shows from the 90s like Friends. You know, you often see these female characters talking about shopping and talking about how much they're shopping together, and going shopping seems like a fun group activity that they do together, you know? So if you have a comedy movie or a sitcom where the context is that the show is lighthearted and funny and uses humor, things like consumerism can be normalized because now it's seen as like a lighthearted thing, like, oops, I actually spent $200 and I have like 8 shopping bags in my hands. Oh, whoopsie, I love retail therapy. You know, it's like, oh, there you go, you got consumerism normalized. And we know that it's normalized because look at social media. Now, retail therapy is a regular word that people use. A more modern version of this, of retail therapy, is claiming that you're healing your inner child by going shopping and buying a Labubu. Like, guys, clearly it was normalized successfully because now the concept of buying things to make yourself feel better is very normal, but mainly for women. It's mainly women that are being targeted by this concept. In all the 90s and 2000 movie TV shows where they have a character who's like a retail, who partakes in retail therapy and is a shopaholic, it is always a female character, and it is sort of pushed on the female audiences that you need to be like this girl, you need to be a shopaholic, because all women love to shop. All women love boots and bags and, you know, dresses. It's so stupid, but it worked. It worked so well. It is so stupid, but it worked so well because now it's just normal. Consumerism is completely normal. You see someone say, yeah, I'm healing my inner child and older sister syndrome by buying myself 5 Labubus and 10 Hello Kitty plushes, and then I'm gonna do a big shopping haul in Sephora. And no one bats an eye when someone says a sentence like that nowadays, because that is a normal sentence you can hear on social media. Clearly, they successfully normalized it. Clearly, they were successful. Another big tool used to normalize consumerism, other than humor, is, in general, the idealization of consumerism. Let's look at characters like Rachel Green from Friends, Gloria from Modern Family, and characters from Legally Blonde, Clueless, etc. All of these characters are seen as incredibly fashionable, trendy, and what we would call nowadays aesthetic and iconic, you know. Now, these characters are characters that are purposefully designed to be seen as very presentable, fashionable, and beautiful, and, you know, desirable. Simultaneously, there are also characters that consume a lot and keep up a lot with beauty trends, fashion trends, and who make that a part of their personality, sort of. Like, let's look at Rachel Green. Rachel Green is seen as this very, very beautiful, very fashionable character. That's sort of like her image. And at the same time, she's someone who's very interested in fashion and regularly goes shopping. Like, for example, this scene.
Hey! Hi. So, did shopping help you feel any better about Ross?
Manhattan does not have enough stores.
But if we look at another character from that same TV show, Friends, if we look at Phoebe, she is a character who hasn't made shopping and consumerism part of her personality, and at the same time she's also presented as a sort of quirky and like kind of weird girl, right? I mean, I think Phoebe Buffay is beautiful, gorgeous, and everything, and she does have an amazing style. But in contrast to Rachel Green is presented as a more like presentable, normal and more like acceptable in society kind of person, rather than Phoebe Buffay, who was portrayed like this like crazy girl who's had a crazy life, and at the same time she's not seen with 50 shopping bags in her hands. Now you could argue that this has multiple reasons. This is just a coincidence, but I do think that there is a correlation with that. That there is a correlation in having Rachel Green presented as a more normal girl, and at the same time she's also like a shopaholic. But in contrast to that, Phoebe Buffay is portrayed sort of like crazy, and she's not a huge consumer and doesn't shop 24/7. Another example would be Gloria from Modern Family. Now Gloria is seen as a very, I mean, she is beautiful, but she's portrayed as this woman who's like very desirable. She's hot, you know, she's beautiful, she's just all put together and all of that, but at the same time she's also a huge consumer and a huge shopaholic and loves shopping. That's a big part of her personality. So she's presented as a very desirable person, and at the same time she's a huge consumer, partakes in consumerism. So it's almost sending like the message like, well, she's beautiful because she's up to date on all the trends, because she buys all the new hottest clothes, and because she follows all the new beauty trends. You see what they did there? It's like, in order to look like Gloria, in order to look like Rachel Green, you gotta be a shopaholic and buy new clothes every week. You gotta have a new outfit for everything. You gotta look as hot as possible all the time, and you do this by buying new products, by the way. Just so you know. That's how you know. That's how they did that. That's how they did that. They make all these women look so hot, and it's like, well, they got here by being massive consumers. There you go. They idealized consumerism. They completely idealize this now. Consumerism is aesthetically presented and curated in a lighthearted way, and it's also seen as a form of like bonding and quality time. You see a lot of friends together in groups, like I mentioned before, in a lot of these movies, like Mean Girls, where they go out shopping together and it's like a super fun time, and it's like a bonding experience. Not only that, but you have the birth of the shopaholic trope. The prototype of this girl is that she is a fashion girl. She's interested in fashion. She always has the best clothes and she always looks good. She's a shopaholic, you know, but it's funny, it's fine. It's not actually a big mental problem. She's trendy, she's fashionable, and engages in retail therapy. Or this could even be like a whole friend group, okay? This is what I like to call the birth of the shopaholic. This is how they do it. They make a funny, cute character who's also really fashionable and trendy. They make her this, and they make at the same time a huge part of her personality shopping and consumerism. So while they might not so going back to Rachel Green, while they might not explicitly say like, well, Rachel is way hotter than Phoebe because she shops, you know, it's in the little things, you know, it's in the little like subtext almost. Rachel Green is presented more normal, more desirable, and she got to be like this because she shops. She shops a lot. Whereas Phoebe Buffay is the crazy weird girl because she doesn't go shopping all the time and she actually buys stuff from flea markets. Oh my god, flea markets. Oh my god, what a weirdo. It's in the subtext, okay? It's in the little things. When I watch like TV shows and movies from the 2000s, like I'm rewatching Friends right now. I saw so much of this whole like shopaholic and like going shopping all the damn time. Like also think like, and not just Rachel Green, but like Rachel's sisters. Always going shopping. It's always about shopping. Let's go shopping together. This, or when they meet someone new, it's like, let's go shopping together. It's completely idealized. Consumerism is completely idealized. Instead of it being seen as this thing that has a huge environmental impact, can cause huge financial problems, it's seen as a way of bonding and a way to be desirable. I want to briefly talk about social media as well. I mean, this video isn't about social media, but social media sort of proves that these TV shows and media successfully normalize consumerism. They passed with flying colors, okay? They are the reason why we have all these like Shein hauls, Temu hauls, like these massive, massive cases of overspending, over consumerism. Like, enough, guys. Another sort of piece of evidence that shows that consumerism has just been completely normalized is the fact that we have like these micro aesthetics every week. These are so problematic. Like, guys, like, listen, the reason that we like having all these aesthetics is not just like a cute and like fun thing. It's a way for you to consume even more. The reason that we have like clean girl aesthetic, grunge girl aesthetic, rock star girlfriend aesthetic is that so that you don't buy clothes because you don't buy just like one set of clothes that are gonna last you a long time. You buy 50 different like styles of clothes so that you can keep up with like the new trends. So you can be a clean girl aesthetic. Oh shit, now you gotta be a mob wife. Fuck, okay, go buy new things. Go buy new things so I can be mob wife aesthetic. Go buy new things so I can be clean girl. Please, please, please. Like, I just shook my whole table. Oh my god. There's a reason why we have these micro trends and these micro aesthetics. What the fuck is tomato girl aesthetic, bro? I don't understand. Like, that's one thing. It's crazy out there, okay? But there's a reason for it. It's because companies want you to buy more and more and more and more and stuff. If you stick to one aesthetic, you're not going to be buying new things all the time so you can keep up with other aesthetics. But if you're someone who's like, well, I'm going to be clean girl now, and then the next trend is to be a mob wife aesthetic, so you buy all the things to become mob wife aesthetic. And then the next trend is to be emo, so you buy all the emo stuff so you can be emo. Like, so you see what I mean? The micro trends and the micro aesthetics push you to buy more and more and more so you can keep up with things. But let me let you in on a little secret. You can just have your own style and buy things that are gonna last you a long time. And not switch aesthetics every week or every few months. You could also do that, you know? You don't need every new thing just because it's trending. Have your own style, man. It's much better. It's so much more fun. Just wear what you want to wear. Now, did I sound a little bit like a little bit of a conspiracy theorist? Maybe. Do I have a conspiracy theory that all trends on social media that push consumerism are planted by the governments and companies to, you know, push consumerism? Maybe. Maybe I have that theory. Maybe I am a crazy little conspiracy theorist, but whatever. Makes sense to me, I don't know. So yeah, just a little conclusion. We see that humor, like not only humor, but also the sort of romanticization of consumerism was so prevalent in movies and TV shows after the big boom of consumerism and fast fashion in the 90s. You are made to believe that the only way you can be a desirable woman is by buying a bunch of shit. Like, that's basically what it is. You can only be desirable and hot, you know, and men will only want you if you're trendy and change your aesthetic and change your style every 2 seconds to fit the new trend. That's what it is. But also a huge problem, like, I don't know, what would you call it? Shopaholicism? Like, alcoholism, shopaholic. Like, being a shopaholic is seen as, like, is portrayed as something like lighthearted and quirky and not something that can actually destroy your life. Like, it's not actually funny if you think about it. Like, being a shopaholic can cause like serious problems, but it's portrayed in a lighthearted and funny way so that it's normalized. And the way that we can see that it's been successfully normalized is because now on social media, it's not only normal to be a consumer and overspend and overconsume, it's completely amplified by social media. The sort of like the beginning, like seeds of consumerism started with the TV shows and movies from the 90s and 2000s, and now it's grown into this big ugly ass tree on social media, and it's like growing like every 2 freaking seconds because of social media and its algorithms and yada yada yada. That could be a whole nother video, but that's how we know it's been successfully normalized. Now, I just want to like send out a little PSA. Overconsumption is a massive problem, and it's causing so many, like, not only it's causing financial problems for yourself, it's causing so many problems for our environment, and also the biggest companies that are like most consumers go to are companies that violate workers' rights. They have child labor. It's fast fashion companies destroying the environment. It's why overconsumption is such a big problem. I really urge you to look to smaller brands, look up what companies and what brands are fast fashion. Like, there is so many better companies out there. I really encourage you to go thrifting or to secondhand stores instead of buying from Zara, H&M, and all of these places. Because not only is it better quality and much more sustainable, but in my opinion, you develop such a more personal sense of style when you go thrifting instead of buying at big like brands. Because at big brands, like if everybody buys at the big brands, we're all gonna be wearing the same clothes, you know, like nobody's gonna look different. I really encourage you to find your own personal sense of style, finding more sustainable clothing brands, because this is something I've recently started doing in my life, and it just feels so much better knowing that I'm not contributing to these companies that are harming our environment, but also harming people with terrible like work laws and just like non-existent worker rights, you know. Like, it feels really good knowing that you're not contributing to that, and to have just like clothes that like last you a long time. And also you find such like unique pieces when you go thrifting instead of buying at big brands that are mass producing the same thing over and over again. You don't like, contrary to what movies and TV shows and media want to make you believe, you don't have to keep buying the new thing. You don't have to keep buying the new thing to fit in or to look good or be desirable. You don't have to do that. Be yourself, be authentic, have your own personal sense of style, and trust, you will be, you will fit in and you will be desirable. It doesn't matter. You don't have to keep buying new shit that you don't need. Go thrifting, donate your clothes, buy, and really think before you buy something. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a topic I've recently become really interested in. I think fast fashion is a major problem that we need to look at, and it causes so many problems for our, not only for our society, but also our environment. And I think it's important to look at the origins of where our behavior about consumerism came from, so that we can actually, you know, tackle the problem, sort of break down the main aspects that normalize consumerism. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.